Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. On today's episode, we are doing two things people love: ranking and talking about prospects. We're going to rank the Sharks' top 10 prospects and figure out who is the best prospect in the Sharks system. So all that and some Mario Ferraro talk on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin and San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you, of course, for making us your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts, and of course, subscribe on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be talking about the top 10 prospects in the Sharks pool. I ranked them in the best order I could. Got some honorable mentions, some surprising cuts, especially if you've been listening to the show for a while. It's pretty interesting where the Sharks prospect pool has kind of come, especially since when we first started the podcast in 2020 to now, and just how much deeper and harder it is to try to figure out who should be in the top 10. But before we continue and of course talk about Mario Ferraro's signing, I want to talk to you guys about BetOnline. You guys know that today's BetOnline's got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's go ahead and start with Mario Ferraro, of course, who got his new deal last week. I did a little YouTube hit on it, but if you're listening to the podcast, I wanted to make sure I covered it as well. So Mario Ferraro, of course, gets re-signed for a 4-year, $3.25 million AAV contract, so 4 years, $13 million. And I think that's the right number for him, to be honest. I think that was a pretty solid term. Right number. I've heard old co-hosts compared to the Shimmick deal, but Ferraro is like way younger. He's 23, and so by the time this deal's done, he's going to be 27, 27, 28 type of situation. So, and I know Ferraro, hasn't really kind of met expectations of what he was, especially as a rookie season. And, we saw him play then. And, I think him kind of being put maybe a little bit above his punching weight has been that. I think also maybe not having the right partner. He played a lot with Brent Burns, and we know Brent Burns, he can do some great stuff, and he's also a bit of a freelancer, and I think Mario Ferraro had to kind of help cover for that a lot of the time. So I want to see what Ferraro does with a more kind of structured defensive system and maybe a more kind of balanced partner with him, and allow him to kind of help to find his offensive game. And I think he has some offense. He's put up 12 points the last two seasons. I'm not expecting Ferraro to come out and be a 40, 50 point scorer, but I don't think it should be unreasonable if Ferraro is flirting with 20, 25 points, in a more balanced system where he's not going to have to, one kind of cover up for Brent Burns. Brent Burns is going to take 90% of the offensive stuff with those two as a partner. And I think, finding the right partner for Ferraro, but, letting him kind of help discover his offense and kind of grow in that role a little bit more. I think we'll see a more balanced Ferraro, and I think we'll see a little bit better Ferraro. So, I feel like it's a really fair deal. I was worried, like a 4-year, $6 million deal or something like that. But no, I feel like this is a really fair deal. Ferraro, he's going to come out, he's going to play a bunch of minutes, he's going to play penalty kill. I think this is very fair deal for both sides. So, yeah, good for Ferraro, future captain Mario Ferraro at some point. So, but let's get into what you're here for, the actual rankings. So, kind of some rules I played by where you had to be under 50 NHL games played. I kind of fought in my head about where to kind of put this cutoff of how many games played to be considered. And I thought 50 was kind of a fair number where it's not quite a full season, but it feels like you kind of have made that step type of situation. So where you've kind of solidified yourself, and you're probably still bouncing back a little bit, but you're kind of, we know who you are type of thing. So so let's start with some honorable mentions, some guys who did not make my top 10. And this is nothing against them. This is usually more of a look at, like I said at the top of the show, of how much deeper this prospect pool has gotten compared to 2020 when we first started the podcast. And you could have made a very fair claim that Sasha Chimbalevsky could have been one of the top 5 best prospects, because they just didn't have any. And now Sasha, he's off to Russia to play games, and because he just wasn't going to get enough ice time with the Sharks. But so here's my honorable mentions. So Ben Gaudreau, and this is, again, nothing against Ben Gaudreau, who I think is going to be a great goaltender. It's just the people in front of him now is there's just a lot of the Sharks added a lot of good goaltender depth in front of them, and especially the prospects. So Magnus Krona, who of course won the college championship this year with the University of Denver. Eetu Makiniemi, who the Sharks acquired in the trade with Brent Burns from Carolina. He was off to a very strong start before he got hurt, and pretty exciting about him. Nick Cicek, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago, I think he's just going to be a solid NHL defenseman, and there's nothing wrong with being a solid NHL defenseman, especially if you can get them for free. And that's basically, with the Sharks, they signed him out of juniors from the Portland Winterhawks. Didn't have to spend any draft capital on him. They're getting a guy who I think is going to play NHL games this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of on the Jake Middleton road to success of playing a couple years in the AHL and then finally making his case to be an NHL player. And he's just going to be a really solid defenseman for the Sharks for a while. So Jasper Weatherby, who, he was really close to the cutoff. He played last year, played a bunch of games last year, came out on fire, but definitely cooled off. I think that long season, and especially for those rookies or those guys coming out of college, where you're just not quite used to that grind, and he talked about that too when I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. But again, I think he's going to start the season on the Barracuda, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of solidified himself as an NHL player by the end of the year. Santeri Hatakka, again, he's played a couple, he's gotten a little bit of the taste of the NHL, but I think defensemen, they just take longer because it's a much more nuanced position, and it takes a little bit longer to kind of get yourself ready for it to be an NHL caliber defenseman than it does to be an NHL caliber forward. Like with the forwards, you can kind of hide them a little bit and, kind of put them in positions. With defensemen, you guys know it's turning over the puck and all of a sudden you're going the other way, and the defenseman needs to know what they're doing. So I still like Hatakka. I think he's going to be a really solid defenseman for the Sharks. And probably the most surprising of my honorable mentions, Ozzy Weisblatt. And you're going to be like, why is a former first-round pick not in your top 10? And I mean, I like Ozzy a lot. Again, I think it's going to talk about more of the depth of the Sharks system. But Ozzy had a terrible year last year. I know the Prince Albert Raiders were bad. I know he was dealing with injuries and stuff, but you still got to count that against them. And I think Ozzy, once he's going to be playing on the AHL, I wouldn't be surprised if next year, if Ozzy's floating around the top 5, if he has a really strong year with the CUDA this year, playing around better talent stuff. But I got to go with what I have right now, and I think Ozzy was I think he would say it too. He was probably disappointed with his season last year, and I think that's very fair to to kind of put him just outside the top 10 right now. So before we continue and look at the actual top 10, let's take a quick break. Talk to you guys about our friends over at Athletic Greens. You guys know, if you're trying to kind of re-energize your gut, you want to kind of find something that's going to work for you without having to spend a bunch of money. Athletic Greens has got you covered. One scoop of their delicious AG1 powder, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole whole food source superfoods and probiotics to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of those things. It's super easy. You take a scoop it in, you put it in the thing, you put some water in there, you shake it up, and you drink it. You have it before you have your morning coffee, and you're good to go. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than that cold brew habit. It's cheaper than going to the store and buying all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in all-in-one nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens founder, he created this because he was tired of doing that, of going to the store and buying all this stuff and spending $100 a day to get all the same stuff. So he created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutritional routine on your own. And they're making it super easy for you. All you have to do, go to athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. They're going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, just visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, let's continue this fine Sunday morning, or as you guys are going to be listening to this Monday morning. Number 10, Gannon Larocque. Gannon Larocque, defenseman, Victoria Royals. He, when the Sharks picked him in the 4th round in the 2021 draft, kind of were like, who's this guy? A lot of scouts said they didn't even watch the Royals because they were so bad. And he talked about how he wanted to really kind of focus on his offense and stuff. And he did that last year. 63 games, 10 goals, 42 assists, 52 points. He's probably going to be playing for Team Canada at the regular World Juniors, or he's got to try out for them once he gets back from his injury. Played 3 games with the Barracuda last year. Looked super solid with them, especially as an 18-year-old, being an 18-year-old defenseman and playing in pro hockey. Again, I talked about how the defenseman, it's a harder position to kind of, with the nuance that goes with it. And Nick Cicek talked about how the kid looked like he belonged. So, is Gannon Larocque going to be like a potential 50-point scorer for the Sharks? Probably not. But is he going to be a fan favorite, solid defenseman that you got in the 4th round? I think so. I think he's going to have a long career for the Sharks. So, and kid loves to work, and we know he's going to work on everything that he needs to try to get better. So, number 9, Daniel Gushchin. So, one of the 2020 draft class guys was, we wanted to kind of see how he would play with better competition last year, because his draft year he played in the USHL. He definitely had a kind of a weird path, especially with everything COVID, the OHL shut down. He wanted to continue to play, so he stayed in the USHL for another year. Wanted to see how he would do with better competition in the OHL, and he lit it up. 51 games played, 41 goals, 36, 71 points. Got to play some Barracuda games as well. And I think with him, again, he's going to be one of those players where, he did so much with the Ice Dogs where he was literally their only offense. And I think having him play with some better talent around, if he's on a line with Robbins or whoever, getting to see that scoring touch. And I think, he has a sneaky good vision. We saw that in a couple in his Barracuda games, where able to find guys who just weren't able to finish. But I feel like Gushchin he's a potential, if everything goes right, he's a potential 30 goal scorer for the Sharks, where, there's a long road to get there, but his shot is already one of the best in the Sharks prospect pool, if not the best. And I think with him getting to play with the Barracuda last year, nice little kind of taste of it. And then now with the much better talent around him, I think we're going to see Gushchin not have to do as much and be kind of a more of an effective player, with just better talent around him. So, which is what you're going to see, right? You go into going from juniors, AHL, you're just going to be playing with better talent, and going from the AHL to NHL, you're going to be playing better talent. So, I expect him to have a big year and be an integral part of what the Cougar are doing this year. So, number 8, 2022 first round pick, Filip Bystedt. And some people are going to be like, whoa, you have Bystedt over Ozzy Weisblatt. You said you said Filip, Bystedt was probably a reach for the Sharks and they should have gotten Lambert. Yes, they probably still should have drafted Lambert, but if you think back to when the Sharks drafted Ozzy, that was considered a reach too. And I think with Bystedt, him already having played SHL games, he's going to be playing against men this year as well. He got 15 games in the SHL last year, had a goal and assist in that time, and he's going to be playing SHL games this year. And granted, it's probably going to be fourth line role, but playing against men is I'm going to give you the edge there, right? And he's also he's turned 18 at the beginning of the year, so he's 18 years old, going to be playing against men. I think he needs to put on some weight and some muscle, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Filip Bystedt, he's well on his way to being a very good 3C, and then potentially hitting a 2C type of role with the Sharks in the long run. And again, you can't underestimate playing against men at this age, what that's going to do for his development. Another guy that we'll talk about later, talking about playing against men and what that did for their development. So put a pin in that. So next, another newcomer to the list, Strauss Mann, who, of course, kind of had a wandering way to the Sharks. They signed him this year. A little bit older, of course. He's going to be turned 24 here in about a week or two. But really solid college production with Michigan. Goes to the SHL, plays really well in the SHL there. In 22 games, 914 save percentage on 219 against men, of course. Played in the Olympics this year. Looked good there. And then the limited, I know it's a little weird with the 3-on-3 format, but was easily the best goaltender in the development. And he's going to have a pretty good claim to be the Sharks or the Barracuda's starting goalie and be that number one for the Barracuda and eventually work his way into the Sharks. I think Strauss Mann has got there's a lot there to like with him. And I know he's a little bit smaller, but I think I was really impressed with going from college to playing on the much bigger ice in the SHL. Now he's going to be jumping back, but that transition is really hard for goalies, especially, with the weird different angles and stuff like that. And he didn't look like he missed a beat. So, I think he's going to be a really solid fit for the Sharks. And I think, again, that finding something for free that you have with Strauss Mann, that I talked about with Nick Cicek, where you're not having to invest draft capital, but they're going to be potential guys for you. You can't underestimate how important that is. So, and then number 6, the last one before we take our break, 2022 draft pick, Mattias Hävelid. So some of you guys are like, wow, you have Hävelid over Bystedt. Yeah, I mean, Hävelid, I forget who I talked to with that. If you swap those picks and Hävelid was your first round pick, no one would have blinked an eye at it. Like he's that good. He's going to be he's a super smooth. He can skate. I think he's got to work on his offense a little bit, but when as he continues to kind of grow, we saw it against juniors where he can continue to dominate offensively. But, again, playing against men as a 17-year-old, he played 23 games in SHL. This season he's we'll see where he kind of fits in, if he's going to be playing with Linköping or if he's going to have to go play in Allsvenskan. But again, I think he's going to be one of your best defenders for the Sharks. He's probably going to be playing World Juniors, come the winter version of the World Juniors for Team Sweden. Yeah, he's going to be really good, guys. The Sharks got a really good defenseman here, and we've seen the offensive skills with juniors and playing against kids, but if he can continue to bring that playing against men and like that the Sharks might have found something here. So yeah. So let's recap the top 10 through 6. So again, Gan LaRock, Daniel Gushin, Filip Bystedt, Strauss Mann, and Mattias Hävelid, 10 through 6. Before we continue and look at the top 5 players in the Sharks prospect pool, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Talk to you guys about our friends over at Built Bar. You guys know Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. But if you haven't tried their Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of the greatest joys in life. They have new flavor, indulgent cookie dough. I'm cookie dough everything. Cookie dough ice cream. Just give me cookie dough. It's the best. So it's covered in chocolate. It's got cookie dough, and there's marshmallow. What more could you want? Like, I don't know what else to ask. What you want. So all the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. 160 calories and only a whopping 15 grams of protein in front of them. So run to Built.com, snag a box for yourself. And if that's not the flavor that you want, go check out. They have a bunch of different flavors so you can find out which one is your favorite. So go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, the top 5. So Ryan Merkley, who's been I'm still holding hope. He barely makes the cutoff because he's only played 39 NHL games. But this is a big year for Merkley, and we're going to dive into this a little bit more as we get closer to this season. But the offense is there, and we've seen the flashes, and you're just like, you can see him being super special. And then you also see the oh no minutes with him too as well. And I think he's going to have a big opportunity this year. I know either he's going to be playing the number 1 role on the Barracuda, or if he's on the Sharks, he's going to have an opportunity especially with Brent Burns gone, and running the power play. I think finding the right defensive partner for him is going to help. But I mean, that Vlasic Merkley pairing last year worked pretty solidly. And if you just kind of close your eyes and plug your ears about Vlasic making $7 million as your third pair defenseman, I think that Merkley-Vlasic pairing was really solid, where Vlasic can kind of play your traditional defenseman and Ryan Merkley can kind of help create and get the puck out of the zone, which is what he's really good at doing. So, and Vlasic, as much as he's fallen off a cliff, he can still be a really solid defenseman. Again, just don't look at the cap-friendly page while you're doing that. So, I still believe in Ryan Merkley, but this is the put up or shut up time for him right now is this season. So, number 4. Brandon Coe, the Sharks prospect of the year, the 2021-22 season. He's really showcased himself last year as, when the Sharks drafted him. We talked to, the North Bay Battalion head coach about him, and he said he has all the tools. He just needs to find the toolbox. He found that toolbox last year. And I know North Bay was really sacked, but you still have to go out there and produce. And, 62 games last year, 34 goals, 67 assists, 101 points in 62 games, another 20 points in 12 playoff games last year, which is just ridiculous. But I think the most important year for him was that 2020-21 season, playing on the Barracuda as an 18, 19-year-old kid, playing hockey against grown adults, and then going back to the juniors and just dominating. And so he got the this is what it takes type of thing. And then he got to go play with the junior kids, and his confidence just became sky high. And the development camp, we saw how well he played there, and the Marchment Cup. Who do they hand that Marchment Cup to? Brandon Coe. Like, that picture of him holding it around is, I hope it's up somewhere in the Sharks facility. But, he's big, but he plays a fast game, and he's skilled. And I think he's going to have a monster year with the Barracuda this year. I think he's going to be an absolute monster, having already gone through an entire season of playing AHL games. And I think having Coach McCarthy, who's going to know how to get the best out of him, he's going to be a monster, and I would not be surprised if he's playing NHL games next year. So at some point. Number 3, you guys probably know the order of these now. Tristan Robbins, another one of the 2022 draft class. Was the captain of the Saskatoon Blades last year. Is really, everything you've kind of asked for him to do in juniors. He got a couple games with he didn't get to play any Barracuda games. I guess play a couple Barracuda games. No, not sorry. Got to play a couple Barracuda games in the 2020-21 season. Didn't get to play last year because of his shoulder injury that he was dealing with. But great season with the Blades last year. 62 games, 33 goals, 45 assists, 78 points. Playing that 1C role, and I think they really want to keep him as a center. I think we're going to see him play a center role with the Barracuda. And, while he may not make the NHL as soon as some of the other guys, because it's easier to make it as a winger, I think he's going to be a center for the Sharks. And I'm really excited with his potential. He can shoot, he can score, he can assist. He's got, ever since he slid into that center role, he's really taken off. And I think the Sharks got themselves something here again with a late second round pick that they used on him in the 2022 draft class. So big year for Robbins. He's going to have plenty of support around him. I expect him to have a good year this year. So number 2, get on the hype train. Thomas Bordeleau. How could it not be Bordeleau at number 2? We saw him last year, in his 8 games with the Sharks after signing his contract with Michigan. Really looked like he belonged last year. 5 assists during that time. Wasn't able to score a goal, but he made the third line fun again, which is something the Sharks haven't been able to say in a long time. Is, oh wow, I can't wait for the third line to come out on the ice right now. But he's going to go play. He's going to play in the summer version of the World Juniors here, starting. I think they kick off this 8th or 9th, whatever. So he's going to be playing that. He's a 1C on there. He's one of the alternate captains. We've talked about. I don't know if he's going to. I think it's a numbers game with him where he's not going to be able to start the season on the Sharks just because they have too many guys in front of him. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those December call-ups and then he never goes back just because he's too good, and which is fine. That's perfectly fine for him. And he's going to be, I think he's got 2C type of potential. I know he's a little bit smaller, but it's not like hasn't played, he's played in a lot of big games. He's played in the Olympics. Or not the Olympics, sorry. He played in he's played in a lot of big time moments, games, especially for Team USA. Playing in Michigan, where one of the most prestigious program or biggest programs in all of NCAA. Yeah, he's gonna be great. So all aboard the hype train. And finally, it's William Eklund. Which I don't know why Elite Prospects has him going to the Barracuda this year. Elite Prospects, please talk to me. He was good enough to make the team out of last year. I know the team has got better depth and quality, but I would be shocked if he's not on the Sharks to start the season. He's skipping the summer version of the World Junior team so he can get ready for the NHL season. Talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he's just ready to come in and burn down the NHL and prove why he was one of the top picks in the 2021 draft class. And he's the best Sharks prospect they have. He's the best Sharks prospect they've had in a little while, I guess, since Timo Meier. And yeah, that's what happens when you pick 7th in the draft, is you're going to get a really good player, especially in what's I think going to be a much better draft class than we realized in that 2021 draft class. So yeah, William Eklund, no surprises there. We've talked a bajillion times about William Eklund. I think he's going to be I think he's going to be a perennial all-star type of player with yeah, he's going to be one of the best Sharks players that they have. If he's going to be the best Shark, it won't be long until he, 3 or 4 seasons from now, where we're like, oh yeah, he's the best player on the team, and there's no question about it. So that's my opinion on William Eklund. I've made it pretty clear. So that's going to do it for today. We'll be back on Tuesday night, Wednesday, where I have an interview with prospect Eli Barnett. So Sharks 6th, 7th round pick in the 2022 draft class. So he comes on, talks about his draft process, all that fun, where his future goes. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out. When you guys are done listening to this, since this episode is just about over, make sure you guys go head over and check out the Locked On NHL show. They're still pumping out 5 episodes a week, even though we're down to 3, but they still have you covered. I know they did the Atlantic power rankings last week. They're going to be doing another one this week, so they get you covered for the next 4 weeks on that. And then on Friday, we're going to continue our Get to Know the Enemy series. I think I'm doing the Vancouver Canucks with Justin from over there. So make sure you guys keep us locked in for that. Of course, you can find the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram over at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Odyssey. You know the deal. YouTube, find us on there. You can find me on Twitter at myfryhole. And again, be back with Eli Barnett on Tuesday night, Wednesday. So bye, friends. Bye, friends.